Hey there, and welcome to this new episode of 9x Tool Demo, where we bring you the latest of SaaS, no-code, and AI tools. My name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of 9x, and I'm joined today by Rupert, founder of DocsAutomator. Hi, Rupert. How's it going?
Hi, Alex. Going well. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure all mine. Do you want to start with telling us what DocsAutomator does?
Yeah, sure. So DocsAutomator is a document automation tool, and I call it the easiest way of turning your data into documents, meaning PDF or Google Docs, and it uses Google Docs for templates.
Amazing. And so basically with DocsAutomator, I can create documents. Everybody is using documents to communicate, to collaborate. Is your tool aimed at specific users, or is it a very generic tool that anyone could use theoretically?
I mean, theoretically, anyone could use it. The main users of it are small businesses or agencies at this point. So it's very focused on certain data integrations, mainly Airtable, Glide, Noloco, ClickUp. There's also an API, but these are the places where data lives. So currently it's focused on those data sources, and then mostly small businesses and agencies who are using the tool. Agencies for their clients in order to automate documents for their clients.
And what kind of documents are typically generated with DocsAutomator? I can imagine contracts and offers. What else comes to mind?
Yeah, very sometimes also random documents, but the main buckets are basically accounting documents, invoices, credit notes, etc. So that's, let's say, 20%, 30% of documents. Then another big bucket of 30% are reports of any kind. Reports can be many things. Then there's a contract bucket, right? Let's say another 30%. And then there's 10%, the random bucket. So that list is very long of random documents that just people automate and generate. There's a restaurant in Disney World and you want to create documents for your customers that come to that restaurant in Disney World. Stuff like that, like very random documents can also be generated. But those three buckets that I mentioned before are the main areas.
Okay, very clear. So that, I guess DocsAutomator is very powerful because you not only cater to standard use cases, but you have also people who are stretching the tool to the limits to get some out of the ordinary use cases.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us the tool now?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is how DocsAutomator looks once you're logged in. Everything's very straightforward and very easy to use. This is your dashboard, and basically currently my account doesn't have any automations yet. An automation is always a data source connecting a template. You need a data source, then you add your template, and then you have some data that you want to add to that document. Once you've set that automation up, you can send requests to that automation. It's going to produce documents with the data you set it to. And we're going to go through that flow now. So I click on new automation, new window pops up. Let's do an invoices one, because an invoice always has certain elements that showcase the potential of the tool very well. As you can see here, there are more data sources, and more data sources will be added in the future, but let's focus on Airtable for now. So next we need a template. As I said before, DocsAutomator uses Google Docs for templates, and I have a template here that I want to show. It's like a simple invoice template. DocsAutomator's templating syntax using double curly braces here. And then there's a special syntax for dynamic tables called line item tables in DocsAutomator. So this table is basically here where we are printing the line items, the different positions on that invoice, and everything else lives outside of that line item table. So I'm gonna add this template now to my automation here. I think if I type in new syntax, I find it easily. So there's this Google Drive file picker. Once that's done, it's loading the placeholders that I've defined in my Google Doc, and I have the option here to map my Airtable data now. My DocsAutomator always produces PDF, so the PDF is always coming out the other end. But you could also store the Google Doc. So a lot of users and customers actually save the Google Doc in order to be able to continue editing the Google Doc after it's generated. So actually, it's one of the huge advantages of DocsAutomator is that you have that option to continue editing an already populated document in Google Docs. And then you could export it again as PDF, for instance.
You could imagine creating an offer. You have an offer document that's quite complex, or where you need to redact some of the content, and you can start with DocsAutomator injecting the data that is static, and then moving on to drafting your document and before you send it.
Exactly. Personalizing it or whatever you want to change that can't really be automated. Let's say 90% can be automated, 10% can't. You can edit those 10% in the Google Doc after it's generated. Now it's about mapping the Airtable data. So DocsAutomator always works with a primary table and linked tables. So you have a primary table from where your record lives, from where you want to print, and then that can have linked data via linked fields in Airtable. So the base you're selecting here is the base of where the primary table lives. So in our case, I have an invoice base here. I can also quickly show that one. That's how it looks as an invoices table and then some line item tables. Once I've done that, the tables get loaded. My primary table is my invoices table because that's where the main invoice data lives. That's where I have my invoice records that I want to print from. Then I can select the document name field. So how is the document called that is generated? That of course can be a formula field. Let's just take the primary field here in the table, which is the name field. So that is a formula field. So it is like uniquely generated for every row and every record. Then we select an attachment field. I have an attachment field called invoice PDF. So that's where I want to store the generated PDFs. I can decide whether I want to override or add to the attachment field. And then it's about mapping data. So here we map the data. The first is actually an image. If you have an image placeholder, which is image underscore something, you can see that here in the template. Then you get the option to map attachment fields. I use the logo field actually. So I have in my table a logo field, and I always use this one for testing. Here you can see that I have the DocsAutomator logo here. So we want to print that on the invoice. I go ahead and map these. So all of these just correspond to fields in my Airtable. So this is country.
And if like me, you're mapping fields almost every day, you'll appreciate how fast this is. Did you work a lot on the UI there? On how fast?
Especially the search really helps. This is actually DocsAutomator's newest version. Like the old version didn't have a search, so this really helps. So now we've mapped the main table stuff. I don't have certain fields. I don't have discount. We just leave them empty for now. Then it's about mapping the line items. So the line items, as I mentioned before, is based on a linked field on our main table. We have a few linked fields here, but we're going to use the line items one, this one. And then I can select the view on that linked field or now linked table that I've selected here. The view is basically going to define the sorting order of the records in the dynamic table, and is also going to limit if you have any filters on that table in that view, then it's going to restrict the dynamic rows that get printed to only those that are in the filter or still in that filtered view. Let's map the rest here. So for all of these, I have almost exact fields, and that's it. Now we've mapped all our data, and now it's about creating test records. So on the right side, you have a preview feature here where you can select list, which gives you 20 random records from the table, or you can add a record ID where you can add any record ID from your table basically, so you can test with any of the records. Like Airtable tables can have hundred thousands of records, so it wouldn't be practical to load everything here. You can just add the ID. Let's select the one that we saw here, Modesty in Boys. I can click on Create Preview, and now I can basically check out that preview once it's generated in a second and keep editing it here on the left side. So now you can see this looks okay-ish. Most of it is good. Like the image is way too big. We can go into options here and basically restrict the width of it, let's say to 200 pixels. We just generate again. We can also
It's pretty amazing that you can do it here all at the same place. Because
exactly.
If you have to do it with an integration platform, you have to run the automation once, you have to check the output, and here I can view the changes live, so it's very quick to set up.
Exactly. So DocsAutomator's logo has now the right size, and maybe I don't like the date formatting here. Like the date formatting is not really how I want it. For that, there are some additional options down here. There's date and time format, and I have a preview here. And for month, I like to do something like this, where I can have this in long format. If I would generate this again, we can now see that sort of the The month is given in a long format, and this can be set down here. There are a few more options, like image options, and globally images get pre-processed before they're added to documents, not to make documents too big. You can set that here. But now let's see how that looks like. There we go, December 15th, 2022. I like that more. I know we're running out of time in a way, so I'm going to show the last part. Let's say you're happy with the document. Right now, it's about setting this up from Airtable. There are two options. Currently here, there's usually also a webhook option, but that isn't available in the newest version. We're looking at the beta version here that isn't in full production mode currently. There are two options, the automation script or the scripting extension. Let's use the scripting extension first. I can click into it and copy it. I go to Airtable. I have a button here that basically links to an extension here on the right side, a script extension. As you can see, I already had something here. I can just paste that script, click on finish editing, and now I can send real requests basically to DocsAutomator, and we should see actually a file populating here in the attachment field any second. There we go. So exactly like we've set this up before.
Super easy to set up. So you don't need to know scripting to set up the extension.
No.
You can just copy paste the code. And I guess the second one was in a script in automation.
Exactly. Here, the same thing. You copy this, you go into automations. I already have one set up here. You do this again, you just paste it. In automations, there's one additional step that I can't do for you, and that is passing the record ID. Exactly, because actually in extensions, you have a record picker, right? And the button passes the record ID to the extension. In automation scripts, you need to do this via input variables here on the left side. You need to make sure that this is actually how it needs to be called. This needs to be exact. And then you're choosing the record ID here as a value. You save this, and then you can, of course, do whatever you want to do in terms of triggering that automation. I have hooked it up to this create invoice checkbox here. So if I check this one now, then we should see the same thing. We should
run the automation, generate the document.
So we should see that this is now in progress. And then once this is done, the automation is appearing.
Awesome.
And last thing, you can always see in your dashboard, you can always see the amount of documents you've used. Yeah, so you always know how much you've left for the month. That's it.
Super clear. Thanks a lot for the demo, Rupert. So I have a couple last questions regarding DocsAutomator. First, you mentioned this is for agencies and maybe small businesses. What pricing plans are available for these companies? Do you have a free plan? Starting with a free plan, it's super interesting.
So anyone can start on a free plan. It has almost all of the features as well. 50 documents a month are basically for free. If you stay below that limit, you can use DocsAutomator free forever. Basically, if you want to scale beyond that, there's a 200, 500, 2000 plan that you see here on the side. 200 is 15 euros a month. 500 is 29, 2000 is 79. There are annual plans for all of these that give you roughly 20% off. And there are also plans beyond 2000 that are just not advertised on the website currently, but they exist. Customers have them. So yeah, that's the pricing. That's the pricing model.
And so basically, if you're interested in DocsAutomator, you can see that there's a free plan that's very generous with giving you 50 documents that you can generate for free. And we've just seen how easy it is to set it up. There's a lot of similar solutions that require a bit more setup and make it where you need a little bit more experience to set it up right, to test it. And Rupert just showed here that actually in a couple of minutes, if you already have your template on Google Docs, or if you need to make slight adjustments to it, then you can get started and test and see whether you get the results that you want. So that's a very compelling solution if you want to automate your document generation. Last question, Rupert. What is next for DocsAutomator? You showed us workflows with Airtable, so I guess you're adding other data sources. But besides that, what can we expect to see on the platform in the near future?
Yeah, as you said, so I'm adding more data sources is always one path. And another is adding e-signatures to the platform. Currently, basically, it's a document automation tool, but a lot of document automation or document workflows also need signatures. So that is by far the most requested feature. So if there's a lot of smaller features and updates coming, but if there's like a major one, it's e-signatures in the coming months.
Awesome. And when approximately you're planning to have this feature? Is it more like second half of the year?
Yeah, I would say more like around summer. I don't want to. I've been very wrong with sort of time predictions in the past, so gonna be careful. But I mean, I hope sometime, like a bit after summer, maybe going into the second half of the year, it should be there at some point.
Okay, super. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Rupert, and showing us
Thank you, Alex.
DocsAutomator. I guess now you have all the information you need and a quick demo if you were hesitating. If I had documents to generate, I wouldn't hesitate a second, and I would just give it a try right away, especially since we have a free tier. Thanks a lot, Rupert.
Thank you, Alex. Bye-bye.